For this week's Tiara Talk Show interview, we are excited to welcome the voices behind the quotes from the Living with the Land mural to the show.
Hi, my name is Melissa Hood, and when I was 9 years old, I started an international environmental organization called Kids for a Clean Environment. I was invited to participate in the attraction, and it was an honor to be a part of.
Hi, my name is Danielle Dahl. I'm from Davenport, Iowa originally. I went to John F. Kennedy Catholic grade school, and our teacher, Mrs. Broody, was actually quite an advocate for the environment. And she got us involved in a number of different projects that helped the environment locally as well as throughout the United States. And part of writing the quote was, she actually had the entire class do it. But it was highly inspired by her. So, and a lot of that stuff has inspired me beyond just my 13-year-old self to do more. So, and it's an honor to be here today.
Hi, I'm Amy Ulivieri, formerly Amy Larrick, when I wrote the quote back in fifth grade. It was a school project as part of Kids for Conservation, and our teacher encouraged all of us to write quotes, and she submitted them on our behalf, and it was quite an exciting day when I learned that I was one of the lucky chosen students. So I'm really excited to be here.
Hi, I'm Tessa Hill, and I'm the president of an organization called Kids for Saving Earth, which was started by my son Clint before he died from a brain tumor in 1989. And we were sponsored by Target stores at that time, so we had clubs and members all over the country. And one of the school club groups added a quote to this wall, and it was very exciting. We still are running away, and we have a website that everyone can join in on, and we still unfortunately need a lot of earth saving to go on.
And of course, everybody's probably questioning, Tammy, how in the world did you get in touch with these four lovely ladies, first of all, and why did you even think about this? And I'm sure that you guys are wondering the same thing. It was interesting because when I was a kid, I remembered that we would wait in these long lines for the Living with the Land attraction. So waiting in the line for that attraction was just always taking forever, but there would be these quotes on the wall, and some were from presidents and other notable names, and then also from kids. So I thought it would be interesting to see what happened to you guys after all of these years, because I just remember reading those quotes and saying, hey, they were my age and they really cared about the earth itself, and I always loved the attraction. So thank you guys for even answering my messages, because you probably thought, who in the world even knew who I was and what has happened since. So this is just very exciting to have you guys on the call to discuss this topic, because it seemed like there was a lot of conversation in the 80s and 90s regarding our planet. So in your opinion, in all of your opinions here, what do you think was one of the main forces behind that conversation initially?
Well, Tammy, this is Melissa. Well, when I was 9 years old, that's when I initially had found out about about pollution, about the environmental problem, and it was kind of an eye-opener because I had never heard of it before. And being a kid, you think of your environment as far as your backyard. And I had seen a television show. It was called Highway to Heaven, and it showed what the future might look like when I got to be an adult. And it was an eye-opener because I realized that there was things that we were doing, that I was doing, small things that were making such a big impact on my future and on all of our futures. And it was scary because it was things that we take for granted that I saw that when I got to be older, when I had kids, might become an issue. And I think many people were going through that in the 80s. I think there were so many things that with how fast our world was changing, and just development of certain from energy to the way we packaged goods. Big things were changing, and it became an eye-opener for many people, just the way that our world was changing with it, and that we have a big impact, positive and negative, on a daily basis. And we can either be responsible and help take care of our backyard, our community, our earth, or we can be a part of the problem. And at 9, it was a discovery. And I think there was just many people who were at that same point.
This is Tessa. I think that what inspired my son, and he was 10 when he came up with the idea of Kids for Saving Earth, was probably conservation and animal issues. He had seen a couple of Discovery Channel shows about animals and their disappearing, and it really upset him, and he became worried about it, and he really felt that kids could make a difference and influence adults all over the world, which is true. And so, we were lucky to have the sponsorship we had, because our first newspaper had 3 million copies available in all the stores at that time. And it spread the message very quickly. And what we found was a lot of very concerned young people, and thankfully very concerned teachers that helped educate these children about this issue. And so, yeah, I think, everyone was very sensitive to the issue of my son. That was some inspiration, but I think they were really inspired by what they saw around them happening.
I do remember growing up, and with the development of Earth Day, I think it was in 1993 or 91, I can't quite remember which date, but I do remember that there was a lot more that people were starting to do with the planet and actually trying to take care of it, as opposed to just using and abusing it. And as time went on, a lot of programs developed more and more, and we started learning that we have to develop sustainably, as opposed to just developing and throwing away the beautiful resources that we have around us. And I think a lot of that is what influenced the things that ended up developing. So, I mean, I don't know if any of you all remember it, but I think it was around 1991 or 1993 that Earth Day was initially developed. Am I wrong about that?
I think it was 91.
91, yeah. And from that point on is when I feel like people started doing a lot more to actually positively change the impact that we're having on the planet. So
yeah, I think a lot of credit needs to go to the teachers for bringing it to the students and making us so aware when we were so young, because when you're 9, 10, you're so impressionable, and I think that being exposed to that at such a young age, it stuck with me, and I've continued to care a lot about the environment and make daily decisions that impact our environment. And even though it's just one person, when you're little, you're taught, even you, one person, one kid can make a difference. And I think that that's a huge lesson that we need to continue to pass on.
When this came about, we were actually, all of us were trying to figure out, talking to the listeners right now, saying, we were trying to figure out how everybody's quotes were selected. Unfortunately, we didn't really find out too much, but I was told from several different ex-Imagineers that basically there was a group called Kid Conservation Leaders, and they were collecting quotes basically on Disney's behalf, asking schools around the United States, what exactly kids were thinking about the environment right now, what we would have to do to preserve it. And apparently the kids that were selected received like a gift or a prize, something like a t-shirt. Now, could you guys confirm or deny that? Do you know whether or not you got something in return, or you heard back from Disney that you officially got a quote up on that wall?
This is Amy. I just remember receiving a packet of information confirming, and I think it was like a certificate of some sort. And that was all that I remember. I don't remember a t-shirt or anything like that.
the quote that was actually used from Kids for Saving Earth, the club that your son started, Tessa, was "Take care of the earth if you care for yourself." And this was by Kathleen Stewart, who I think was a part of the club. So I couldn't find any information on her, which is what led me to contacting Tessa. So did you hear directly from Disney regarding that your club was selected, a club member was selected to be a part of the mural?
I did not. And I think I remember someone else sending me a picture of it at some point. But no, our clubs were all over the United States. We had many 100,000 kids involved. And each club was fairly independent. And you'd think a lot of them notice, and will send us information about what they've been doing, but a lot of them won't. So no, I did not hear anything.
And Melissa, you already had your business established, and your quote was, "We can protect our future world by taking care of nature today. By being involved with taking care of our air, land, and water, we can make sure the world is a nice place to live in for the kids of the future." So this was probably the biggest quote out of all of them, and I think you were one of the oldest kids who was selected for this. So because I remember looking online and seeing some of your old websites that you had to promote the business that you were running. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yes. Well, the club that I had started, it started very small, grassroots. It was at my school, Percy Priest Elementary in Nashville, Tennessee. And after I had seen the television show about pollution, I had written a letter to the president. I didn't hear back. I kind of started my own effort to just get attention from as many people as I could, because I realized if we were going to help stop pollution, you just needed to get as many people involved as possible. So I started to do just the small things of like writing more letters. I called the local newspaper. I had realized that the environmental problem, was something that if we all helped, we could make a big change. So one of the things I had done was to start a club with a few of my friends, and we had about 6 members. And as we continued to do things like writing letters and doing recycling and planting trees, and we did a lot of things at that point. But one of which was I had put up my letter to the president on a billboard. The billboard was first in Nashville. I asked for another that went to D.C., and then it expanded to 250 billboards all over the United States. Well, after that, we started to get so many letters from kids all over the United States asking to join the club, Kids for a Clean Environment. And the club went from 6 members to 250 members in a matter of months. And then it went, it continued to expand because we started to get some national media attention. So between starting and at the beginning of the school year to about Christmas time, we'd gone from 6 members to 3,000. And that was when I was 9 years old. And when I had gotten a call when I was 13 and asking if I could send a quote to participate in the Living with the Land EPCOT attraction. And I remember it was hard trying to figure out what to send, what to say. And I had written out the I was just trying to think the best thing that you could say if you were going to have lots of people look at it and I sent it to them, and then I didn't know if it went up or not, but at some point a friend of mine had gone to EPCOT and called me and sent a picture, and it was cool to see. I didn't actually get to see it until I was about 16 years old, so it was a few years later that I got to go and actually see it live, but it was just super exciting to see it up there and all the other kids' quotes. It was just very powerful.
Has everybody else gotten a chance to see their quote in person?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw my quote for the first time in person when I was 16 as well. So it's interesting that you have a bit of a different perspective from 9 to 16. But yeah, I agree. It was very powerful to see your words up on a wall with some very powerful leaders, and really, really cool stuff.
Amy did send me a photo showing that she saw the quote, which was great, which is, it is important to save the earth because that is all we have. We don't get another. So it was so sweet to see that picture of you. I think it was you and your brother, which I will post on our website, but I thought that was great. Thank you for sending that.
Of course.
And Danielle?
Tessa,
oh, go ahead, Tessa. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a correction because I knew something was wrong here, because I remember celebrating the 20th anniversary of Earth Day, and that was in 1990. So actually, Earth Day began in 1970.
Oh, wow!
And I met Senator Gaylord Nelson. He worked for the Wilderness Society as well after he was senator, but he was from Wisconsin, and he's the one who actually officially started Earth Day. But I think it just started getting so much more publicity. Just like this, we created a big event around it, and somewhere in 1990s, it really started to get a lot bigger.
Danielle, your quote was, "If we don't save the animals, the air, and the sky, they will be gone in a blink of an eye." So yours was the only one that rhymed, which was so cute, Danielle.
So I have not yet gotten a chance to see it. Unfortunately, initially it had more to do with family being so far away from Florida, and now it has more to do with work obligations. So I'm hoping to see it actually in the very near future, definitely before they take it down. But
one of these days.
One of these days, definitely.
Well, it seems like the conversation kind of, I don't want to say burned out in the late 90s, but I don't think it was as strong as it was back at the time that this mural was put together. So what have each of you been doing to, still pursue that aspect of going ahead and trying to preserve and conserve and also protect our earth, because it's even more prominent now than it is, overall, because we're still having issues, of course, with our earth, and it seems like it's a more prominent issue now than it ever has been. So what have each of you been doing? Are you still working and pursuing that goal to help protect our earth?
This is Melissa. I have 4 kids of my own today, and they range in age from 2 to 10. And we're back in Nashville, Tennessee. And my kids, I had 2 at the school that I started Kids Face at. So they're at Percy Priest, and this past year I facilitated our own chapter of Kids for a Clean Environment at Percy Priest, and I have such great respect for teachers, because growing up I was always on the side of, I was a kid, and I was being a kid with the other kids doing the projects and, leading those projects, but to be a parent facilitator today is a totally different world and experience, and it is probably one of the more challenging things I've done. The kids come in with such amazing energy and ideas, and they're going a million miles a minute, and I'm just trying to keep up with them. So we had about 20 kids in our chapter, and it was fun doing it with my kids. It was kind of like coming full circle, and we did all sorts of projects, from planting trees around the school, participating in community events. There was this Tennessee Environmental Council. They were planting 250,000 trees around Nashville, and we planted about 100, at our homes and at the school, and it was a fun project and a lot of learning about the environment. Because with kids, you're really starting from the basics when it comes to the environment and in the backyard, and they look at things very straightforward and simple. Whenever you introduce something to them, they see it for what it is, and they think, why not? Why can't let's do this? If there's a problem, let's fix it. So it was fun to do, and we the kids, they hosted an Earth Day assembly at the school this year. So it was the full school, and we invited a green performer to come and do a magic rock show. His name is Steve Trash, and it was just amazing. And growing up, Walmart was our main sponsor. They're the ones that had helped the club grow from 6 members to it grew to the max of 350,000 members. So this year we had Walmart help us. Again, they sponsored our local Earth Day event. But today for me, everything's a lot more on a smaller scale. But I think that's where our focus needs to be when it comes to the environment. We have to think of the ways we can best be responsible just in our daily lives, and you don't have to be perfect. It's just about doing what you can.
This is Tessa. Kids for Saving Earth still is going strong. We have a very in-depth website, and we just finished 2 years of global warming A to Z, the Kids Campaign to Cool the Earth. And so a lot of teachers were participating all over the world. Actually, we have several clubs throughout the world. We don't always hear back what they're doing, but then all of a sudden someone will try to reach us and want the Kids for Saving Earth Promise song for a concert or something that they're doing, and trying to figure out how to get it, which is now available online as well. But the kids are keeping busy, and there's just unfortunately a lot more to do because the global warming issue is magnified by the fact that the United States isn't participating in making changes that we need worldwide to stop this problem or slow this problem. But we're hopeful, and kids are still active. Lots of even clubs and homeschooling, and so it's still out there. But it really helps with big forms of national publicity.
This is Amy. I guess mine is a little bit, a lot smaller scale. I'm not an activist per se, but in my own daily life, I've cut out using plastic bags about 3 years ago. I'm pretty religious about always bringing in my reusable bags. I'm based out of Chicago, Illinois, and about 1.5 years ago, Chicago started charging for plastic bags. So I think that's a great step forward. Plastics is obviously a huge issue with our environment. You see it in the news all the time. And then more recently, a little under 1 year ago, I switched to a fully plant-based diet. So I went vegan, cutting out all meat and dairy products from my diet. And I don't know if you guys are up on this piece of the news, but it was just announced in the news last week. An Oxford University study found that cutting out meat and dairy products is the single biggest way to reduce your environmental impact on the earth. And it's just quite remarkable when you think about the food that we eat 3 times a day and the impact that it has on our environment. I think that was something that was definitely not on my radar when I was 9 years old. And, when you're a kid, you are very impressionable. And I think that getting that message out to our youth when they're young and making those kind of decisions is important. So although I'm very new into this lifestyle, it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm going to continue to seek out ways to kind of put that message out there in a very kind and compassionate way.
So since then, in my 20s, I worked for the University of Iowa's Center for International Rural and Environmental Health, and we actually worked with sustainability in developing countries. As countries develop, they also start adding to the carbon footprint, exponentially adding to the carbon footprint that in the world. And so we started working with sustainable development in Western Africa and the Gambia and Eastern Europe, so Romania, Bulgaria, the former Czech Republic, formerly Czechoslovakia, so the Czech Republic and Slovakia. And we did all kinds of projects where we would help build zero emission housing, things with solar panels, stuff like that, clean water programs, and different ways where you can actually use the current landscape to make sure that it has minimal impact on the environment. And so in addition to that, it helps poor people because they don't have to pay a high cost for heating their houses in the winter. They also, and I'm sorry if you're getting feedback right now, it's raining pretty hard out here. So, and so that's kind of the path that I went down before I got into my current job, which is the military. And so, and that's a whole other ball of wax there. Yeah. But there have been so many things ever since my childhood that have influenced me one way or another to continue to take care of the planet that we have. So, especially with all the things that are ongoing and all the weird weather patterns. And I don't know, I really want everything to be here for my children someday. So, and we're the only people who can start doing it, and we have to pass that on to our kids.
And I can't even imagine the thousands upon thousands of kids that, just like me, would walk and wait in line for the ride and see your quotes on the wall and be like, you know what? If somebody who is 13 or 9 years old can also, be pursued and also inspired to go ahead and help the environment, so can I. So I really don't have any additional statistics about the ride itself. It's still there. A lot of our Disney listeners who are listening, I've seen it there recently. It's safe and sound, of course, and it's a beautiful mural. And I'm so glad that I could speak to all of you today. So thank you for responding to this crazy person's email asking, were you the one on the mural? I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And before we end, I always ask these 3 Disney fun questions to each guest. I call them the Fab 3. So we'll start with the Donald one, which is, as a child, what Disney film was one of your favorites to see in the movie theater?
I wasn't exactly a child, I don't think, at the time, but wasn't Mary Poppins, was that a Disney? I think it was.
I always loved The Little Mermaid. My girls today, they're super into that one as well. I can't really name one they don't love, but that one is a favorite.
I would have to agree with the both of you that Ariel is very awesome. so
Just to be a mermaid.
Loved it. Yeah, I think swimming in the sea would be so awesome.
Amy, what about you?
Yeah, it's 3 for 3. The Little Mermaid was the most memorable movie in the theaters when I was growing up.
And our goofy question, what Disney character do you think would be your best friend if you met them in person?
Probably Donald Duck.
This is hard because, they're all super friendly. We had gone recently to Disney to take the family, and probably who I think would be fun to hang out with would probably be Belle, and I'm going to say probably because she's just so well-read, she'd probably be very interesting to hang out with, and a very kind individual, but it's a hard choice.
I would have to say, and her name is escaping me right now, but the character from Brave.
Oh, Miranda?
Merida.
Merida.
Thank you so much. Definitely her.
She's pretty spunky.
Definitely. She's super sparky. She knows what she wants in life, and she just goes and gets it. And she has a really good heart. So, yeah.
Okay, mine is a little more random. He was a supporting character, but I think he would be hysterical to hang out with, and it is Scuttle from The Little Mermaid.
Oh, yes.
I think that he would just be, anytime you had a question or found a random object, you could go to Scuttle, and I'm sure he would brighten up my day.
And finally, our Mickey question. If I asked you to name any Disney song at this very moment, what immediately comes to mind?
MICKEYMOUSE.
That's hard. I'm probably gonna have to go back to The Little Mermaid just because that's where I seem to have my head right now. Probably, I'm a whole new world.
Definitely Once Upon a Dream from Sleeping Beauty. I absolutely love that song, and I love singing it to little kids with little kids and just randomly throughout the house. So it's I found my Prince Charming. So It's like the perfect song.
He needs to sing it with you now.
He does need to sing it with me right now. He's shaking his head no.
I think Friend Like Me from Aladdin would probably be my favorite go-to.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of this conversation. I really appreciate it, and I'm so lucky you guys got to be a part of some Disney history that not a lot of people know about. So congratulations, and I know I'm like 30 years late. No, I'm just kidding. But it's great that you guys are still involved and supporting and helping our environment. I really appreciate your time, and thank you guys for being a part of this. I hope it stays up for another 20 years, and maybe, who knows, your children's children might be incorporated in the mural. Who knows what will happen.
Thank you.
Together.
Thank you.
All right. Nice meeting you all.
Today, we're learning to live with the land, discovering better ways to grow food that will assure both human and environmental well-being.